November 4th, 1979, Tehran, Iran. Thousands of furious protesters stormed the gates of the United States Embassy. Their target? 58 American citizens trapped inside. Within hours, 52 American diplomats and staff are taken hostage. Their captors make one demand: send the Shah of Iran back to face justice or watch your people die. But in the chaos, 6 Americans slip away unnoticed. What followed was one of the most daring and creative escape missions in history. By late 1979, Iran was a nation in political upheaval. Earlier that year, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the country's ruler for 38 years, had fled under pressure from massive protests. The Shah had long been backed by the United States, but many Iranians saw him as a corrupt puppet of the West. While he lived in luxury, ordinary Iranians grew poorer, and U.S. influence dominated the country's politics and oil industry. His feared secret police, Savak, crushed opposition. Mention their name, and people shuddered. Then came Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, a religious leader returning from exile. He seized the momentum, leading the Islamic Revolution, replacing the monarchy with Islamic law and turning Iran into the Islamic Republic. Anti-American sentiment exploded. Protesters filled the streets, burning U.S. flags, chanting against the West, and when news broke that the Shah was living in America under U.S. protection, outrage reached a boiling point. On November 4th, 1979, thousands of protesters surrounded the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, scaling the walls and forcing their way inside. Overwhelmed, the security guards surrendered. But hidden in the chaos was a secret. The embassy had a little-known back door leading directly to the street. 6 American diplomats used it to escape, without a plan, without cover identities, and with nowhere safe to go. They couldn't walk openly in public. Their faces alone could give them away. Any mistake could cost them their lives. Desperate, they approached various embassies for shelter, but most refused, fearing violent retaliation if discovered. Finally, Canadian Ambassador Ken Taylor stepped forward. Despite his own government's hesitation, he hid the 6 Americans in his home. For 3 months, they stayed out of sight, never approaching windows, never stepping outside. The escapees were Robert Anders, Consular Officer Mark Lyjek, Vice Consul and his wife Cora Lyjek, Immigration Officer Joseph Stafford, Political Officer, and his wife Kathleen Stafford, Visa Documentation Lee Schatz, Agricultural Attached. The U.S. government kept their survival a tightly guarded secret. If word got out, the hostages still held at the embassy could be killed, and the Iranians might launch a massive manhunt, even attacking the Canadian embassy. Enter CIA officer Tony Mendez. His mission? Get the 6 out of Iran alive. The CIA explored several options, smuggling them out in UN trucks, disguising them as locals, or moving them through another embassy. All were extremely risky. Then Mendez proposed a plan so bold it sounded like a movie. Because it was a movie, sort of. His idea: create a fake Hollywood science fiction film production. The film crew would travel to Iran scouting exotic locations. The 6 Americans would pose as Canadian filmmakers, complete with passports, a script, storyboards, and even fake movie posters. It had to be believable enough to fool the Iranian authorities, but not so flashy that it drew unnecessary attention. And so began the creation of a completely fictional Hollywood movie, a cover for one of the most extraordinary rescue operations in U.S. history. It all started with a clever idea: create a completely fictional story about a Hollywood crew traveling to Iran to scout filming locations for a big-budget sci-fi movie. Sci-fi was chosen for a reason. In this genre, anything strange or unusual could be explained away. And so Argo was born, a movie that would never actually be made. To sell the illusion, the CIA opened a real office in Hollywood. It had everything: authentic studio furniture, stacks of film scripts, telephones, posters, even staff to answer calls. They leaked news about the project to the Hollywood press, fake interviews, made-up producer quotes, and glossy promotional materials. Tony Mendez, the CIA operative behind the mission, knew that if anyone went digging, they'd find enough proof to believe Argo was real. The script they wrote mentioned Middle Eastern landscapes over and over, with Tehran's scenery described as perfect for the shoot. The fabrication was so detailed, doubting it would be nearly impossible. Each of the 6 stranded Americans got a specific role. One was a screenwriter, another a cinematographer, another a set designer. They were given full identities, complete with fake Canadian passports, business cards, production schedules, and a glossy brochure describing the movie project. But documents alone weren't enough. The real challenge? Training these people to act like movie industry professionals. Mendez gave them an intensive crash course: how to walk, talk, and carry themselves with confidence, how to deal with customs officials, what to say, and what to avoid. If someone asks who you are, he told them, the answer isn't just in your passport, it's in your face and your voice. By the time training ended, they weren't just pretending to be a film crew. Mentally, they were one. Finally, Mendez got permission to enter Iran under a fake identity, a Canadian film producer scouting locations for his sci-fi epic. The cover story was backed by official Canadian documents approved in advance. In January 1980, Tony Mendez landed in Tehran. His Canadian passport and the supporting media buzz kept suspicions low. His first stop was the Canadian ambassador's residence, where he quietly met the 6 Americans. Inside those walls, away from prying eyes, Mendez gave final instructions: how to behave at the airport, which details to emphasize, which to avoid, how to stay calm no matter what happened. Everyone understood the stakes. One mistake, and not only would they be caught, but ongoing negotiations to free 52 other American hostages could collapse, and Canada would face a diplomatic nightmare for issuing the fake passports. For several days, they rehearsed. Then came the real test: Tehran International Airport. It was a normal morning. Passengers lined up, officials checked documents. Among them, a film producer and his 6 crew members, speaking relaxed English with a slight accent, just like visiting Canadians might. There was one problem: the fake passports had no entry stamps for Iran. Mendez knew that, given the chaos in the newly formed Iranian government, missing stamps weren't unusual. If questioned, their best weapon would be pure confidence. At one checkpoint, a guard paused to study the art director's title. Another examined a visa a little too long. But their cover story held. The Canadians were standing by, ready to confirm the group's legitimacy if called. When boarding was announced, they walked to the gate calmly, boarded a Swissair flight, and took their seats. Only after the plane left Iranian airspace did they finally let out the breath they'd been holding. The mission wasn't over until they reached safety. Upon landing in Zurich, U.S. officials quietly took custody and flew them home. No headlines, no press conferences. The operation stayed classified, partly to protect Canada's role for 17 years. Finally, in 1997, the CIA declassified the mission. Tony Mendez told the world how a fake film, a fake studio, and an impossible plan saved 6 lives. The remaining 52 American hostages were released on January 20th, 1981, the day Ronald Reagan was sworn in as U.S. President, after 444 days in captivity. As for the Shah of Iran, whose exile had sparked the crisis, he died of cancer in the U.S. on July 27, 1980. Argo's once classified story became the subject of books, documentaries, and yes, even a Hollywood movie. But while the film highlighted the CIA's role, the truth is, none of it would have worked without Canadian Ambassador Ken Taylor. He was hailed as a national hero in Canada and awarded the U.S. Congressional Gold Medal. The mission, nicknamed the Canadian Caper, also marked the end of an era. The U.S. Embassy in Iran never reopened, and Canada closed its embassy shortly after, pulling its diplomats out for good. So, what do you think? Was this one of the most brilliant rescue plans in history or the most outrageous? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this incredible true story, make sure to hit that like button, share it with a friend who loves spy tales, and subscribe for more unbelievable history from around the world. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired.